Okay, today I'm going to show you how to make a lightsaber, or I'm going to make one, and you can watch how I do it. But you can make your own. Just kind of pay attention to what the techniques are, so you can learn how to do some of the editing that I'm going to do here. So to start out, I want to just bring up this picture I found on Google. This is a picture of a bunch of different kinds of lightsabers. Some are good side of the force, some are the dark side of the force, and it really shows a super wide variety of designs. And you can see some of the features in here that you might want to use. Some angular facings like this on Darth Maul's lightsaber, some sort of cowl covers um, like that. And then Kylo Ren's lightsaber is not on here, but it goes in 3 different directions. And so there's different things you could do with your lightsaber. So I just wanted to bring that up just to show that you can refer to some other things and emulate some of the design elements that you see in the lightsabers that were used in Star Wars. Okay, so sort of like we did with the chest piece, I'm just going to start with a cylinder. So I'm going to go create cylinder and click, drag, let go, stretch up. And so now I have a cylinder. And I've decided that I want to use a number that's evenly divisible by 4, and I'm not exactly sure why I wanted to do that, but I've decided I want to do 24 sides instead of 18 sides. It'll be slightly rounder, have a little bit more detail, and so forth. And for height segments, right now it's set to 5. Remember, let's put on edged faces so that we can see the edges in here, not only in the side view. If you look over here, you can see clearly that there's a bunch of edged faces in there, and we want more than that. So I'm going to crank that up to 20, and I'll show you in a moment how we can easily add another one. But I'm going to just start with 20, and we'll click out of there, and now we got 20 faces. Now, when we look at this thing called cap segments 1, and there's no faces in there. It's all just one polygon, and there are edges in there because it's it's got lines that we can't see connecting all of these vertices on the top. But right now it just treats it as a polygon. But if we do cap segments and we increase it by 1 to 2, now you can see that it used to be all connected to one vertex in the middle. And now there's a line going around that provides another editing or masking opportunity. And so I'm going to do one more. Look at that. And I'm going to do one more. And so now the caps have 1, 2, 3 editable lines in the middle already made for us. And I really want to do some editing with that. So it's handy to just put that in now. Just so you can see, it also happens on the bottom. So this cap segments is determining how many items we're going to have on the top and the bottom. Now, I don't really quite like the scale here, so I'm going to stretch it out a little bit. So I'm going to right-click on it and scale and make it a little longer like that. Okay, so now I'm going to start with the top. I have some ideas. I already looked at my samples from Google, and I kind of have some clues about what I want to do with this. So, and what I want to show you while I'm doing it. But first, the first thing to do is to convert it to a mesh or a poly, because then we get some editing tools that we don't get if we just treat it as a cylinder. So right click on it. I'm going to convert it to poly. All right, now I can select which kind of things I want to edit. And I'm going to show you something that happens real quick that's very interesting. So I'm going to just select all of, let's see, I need to be in select. So I'm going to go to select, and I'm going to click here and drag down, and you can see I selected all of these shapes inside the circle. Now, I've shown you how to do something like this before, and I've just been careful about how I applied it. But let's look at something else that happened here. If we rotate this around, these faces over here also got selected. You can see that right there. And if we look at it over here, we could see that side faces got selected, and over here they got selected. And it's because our selection, the mouse selection, was selecting these, but right behind the mouse pointer was also all of these points. And so they got selected. Now, sometimes that makes it really difficult to do what we need to do. So it would be nice if we could just select these without selecting those, and we can. We just have to click this box over here called Ignore Back Facing. Then whatever you select on the front face, it ignores anything that's back behind that. It like figures out the spatial relationship for you and doesn't select them. So I'm going to single click on that for that polygon, and then I'm going to do this again. I'm going to click all of these. And now you can see it did not select any other unwanted faces on the object. Okay, so I'm going to reorient this a little bit and use the hand to drag it down to where I can see. Okay, so I want to grow or shrink this selection quickly without having to like go back and select all these things. And there's a couple different kinds of selection tools here that I want to show you. So with the poly tool, the polygon tool, we get this circle selected, and if we just hit grow, it will select all the faces adjacent to that. Isn't that cool? And if we hit shrink, it reduces them by 1. So first, I want to grow that all the way up, and then I want to do a bevel. So I don't need to do this numerically. If I did, I could use this dialog, but I'm going to bevel, and I'm going to sink this inside a little bit like that. And then I let go of the mouse, and then I drag inward a little bit, and it kind of just is a little inset with a slant like that. And then click. Okay, so that looks good. Now I want to do another step, but I don't want to include this last ring on here. So I can go back up and shrink. And now I want to sort of make a crystal shape out of this that sticks out a little bit. In fact, let's see. I guess let's bevel it first. So we still have the bevel selected. I'll stretch out a little bit and then in a little like so. No, I'm going to make it almost vertical like that. And then I'm going to do it again to just give it a little bitty edge in like this. And then I'm going to go to vertex and just click that vertex in the middle. And now I just want to move it up a little bit to kind of look like there's a point sticking out. And I don't want it to really go very high. I think I'll make it go that high, and then let's sink all of it down a little bit. So go back to polygon, and I'm going to grow and grow again and grow again. And I'm just going to sink all of those down a little further so that that pointy edge is actually down inside the shaft of the saber. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to move that over a little bit, and just so we can see what's going on. So now I'm going to edit this with edges. So I click on the edge, and I'm going to just click this interior edge like this. And I want to select all the edges all the way around. And there's two different tools for that. One's ring and one's loop. And they kind of do similar things, but in opposite ways. So let's do loop. And you can see now that it has selected, that red line means that it's selected the whole ring all the way around this way. Now I'm going to show how to just do a sort of a rough chamfer, and because I just want one angle in there. So I've selected chamfer, and I'm going to click on the line and drag, and it kind of trims that line. And I want it to be pretty subtle, kind of about a little bigger than that. It's smaller than that though. There we go, right there. Okay, so you can see it put one flat edge right on there. So that's how to use the chamfer in the rougher form. Okay, now I want to go back and select a different edge. So I select that one. And now I want to do the loop again. You can see it looped around the outside edge this time. But this time I want to put almost like a curved edge on there instead of just a flat shaved surface. Okay, so I'm going to still do chamfer, but this time I want to use the box. So down here, this is how many segments are going to get made, and this is how big each segment is. So I'm going to just click in here and go to this little arrow, and you can see now there's 2 And if I do it again, now there's 3, but each one is automatically getting smaller. And I'm going to go probably at least to 5, because I think at 5 we start feeling like it's got a little smooth curved edge to it. I could go further. In fact, let's just see what happens. We'll go to 7. And now it's got a nice curve on it. And I really like how that curve works. So in order to keep it, I hit the check mark, and now there's a curve. Okay, now I kind of like that that's on there, and I probably will do it on the bottom, but I guess I'll wait and worry about that later. Okay, so now what are we going to do? So I kind of like some of the exterior views of how some of the pieces of the lightsabers kind of stick out. And I kind of think I want to do that, but I want to have them stick in here. Inside this chamber, I'm going to have a little beveled shape that's kind of sticking out. So I want to do polygons again. So I'm just going to click over here on one polygon, hold the control button down, and I just want to get every other one. I don't want each polygon, because even if I wanted to do I want to do the shape on every facing, you can't do it all at once. You can't do it on facings that connect with each other. See, I just messed up there. So I'm going to click out and start again. You want every other face, and you don't want any facings that are close to each other, which is another reason to avoid an odd number of faces on the outside. So 24 is even, so that's nice. Okay, let's see. Now I'm going to go down. I'm going to do bevel. Again, the rough bevel tool is probably okay for what I want to do here. So I'm going to just click. Now it sticks out a little bit, maybe like right in between there, right there. Let go of the button, and now when I move the button, it's going to alter the shape of the little triangle or the trapezoids or whatever, however you want to think about it. That looks good. And that's a pretty cool little interior view of the inside. But it's it's a little too squarish for me. So I actually want to shrink the size of this a little bit. So I'm going to right click on here and choose scale. And you can arrange this so you can see the right scale tool. And I'm just going to make those a little smaller and draw them in a little bit, which actually also will make them more printable. Yeah, I like that angle. It's kind of a little funky angle to it. Looks good. Okay, now a lot of the lightsabers have something similar, but on the outside. And especially Darth Maul's has shapes like that going all the way around the outside of the lightsaber. So let's see, what could we do here? I think I like that his has a little wider sort of edge to it that slopes up into the inside, although there are lightsabers that have a wider piece on the top and then gets narrower. So not exactly sure how I want to approach that. Let's just start selecting and see what we get. And we can kind of gauge, where the handle might stop. So it should be right in about that range. And let's do a polygon select again. So let's see, I'm going to go here like that. And then I'll do the next one. And you just got to be a little bit patient, go all the way around. And you can roll this over like that to get to the next side. Look at this. This is a great example. Look what happened in here. When I clicked this, I accidentally moved this facing. So I'm going to Control Z to go back and undo this selection that I did. And you can see that I've caused a deformation a little bit somehow. And when you discover that, you just got to go back and start again. Okay, so polys. And you just got to click without moving the mouse while you're clicking. If you click and drag it all, then it's going to deform these pieces, and we don't want to do that. See, it's still keeping it together. Okay, Control. And I think it'll probably be nice to just do a simple bevel on these. And then see if we want to scale the top or the bottom or both after the bevel has been completed. Okay, we got them all selected. Click bevel, and let's just pull them out a little bit and then just do a little short bevel like that and see, what do we think? Does that look good? Actually, that looks pretty great. Okay, so I'm going to just shift those down a little bit with a move. So I right click on it. I got to get out of scale, go into move, and just move those down a little. That looks good. All right, and now I'm going to do a little bit of deformation using a soft select. So I'm going to do this side view. You can see we've got a side view right now. And I'm going to select vertices this time, like so. The problem is I've got soft select on. So I did not select vertices all the way through the whole object. See that? So I'm going to turn off, I've got ignore backfacing turned on. Okay, so I turned off ignore backfacing. This time when I select those, it selected them all the way around. We can just double check by looking at the side and back views. And now I just want to scale these and see what happens. So let's just, I don't want to scale the whole thing. I just want to scale this one, just these two axes. So we'll just stretch that out a little bit. Oh man, that looks pretty cool. It's not quite what I want, so I'm going to hit Control Z. And now I'm going to turn on soft selection. And I don't want all of that selected. Let's start with a 2. Let's see what's selected. And I think I want a little bit more than that. So I'll just hold down this button until I get a little bit more selected. Now let's see what happens now. I'm going to go a little higher. A little more color change. There we go. And we can zoom in here and see what's going on. These green ones are coming out a lot. These blue ones are barely coming out. So I'm going to do a little bit more still. And now you can see we got much better selection. And now right click in here and let's pull those out. Yeah, that look gives it a little more crowny look, or I don't know what to call that, but I think that looks really good. Okay, so moving on, now we got sort of the head of our lightsaber, and really you want to move from bigger features and then put the smallest features in kind of toward the end. So we've got this big feature done here. We might add more detail to it later, but right now we've got a nice big feature. And now we've got to decide what's going to come next. So there's different ways to do these edges. But let's maybe add, actually it'd be nice if we could compress some rings around the top up here. So let's do in fact, let's change over to just a side view and let's select these vertices. Let's see, we probably want 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so we're going to squish these together a little bit because we want the rings to be kind of tighter together. And now we want to move them upward. So now I move them upward. And now I want to select polygons again. And I'm just going to select like this, right across. I don't want soft selection. And I'm going to hold the control button down and select these straight across. All the way around like that. And now we're gonna see what happens when I try to use the bevel tool for this. So I could do an extrude and then do a bevel. In fact, let's do that. Let's just extrude these out. You can see this did not work. They kind of went all kind of different directions. So I'm going to hit Control Z. Let's try the bevel just to see if we get the same result. Sure enough, we're getting the same result. So that strategy for getting these to extrude is not going to work. I was hoping they would just all extrude outward, being multiply selected like this. But let's try it again with just one and see how we can do this and see how it may look. So I'm going to just do bevel this time. Just do bevel. Oh, see, it's not. It did not bevel out all the way around like we expected. All right, so because of that, we're going to do a little different operation. Instead of doing it the way we just were trying, watch this. So I'm going to get these two rows of vertices, and I'm just going to scale them larger. I don't want to touch all the way up there to the blue dots right now. I just want to go larger to make a span. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. Yes, just like that. Okay. Now I'm going to do poly again. Select those. Hold the control button down. Select those. And now to get these bigger, I'm just going to do the scale command. So scale, and I just need to scale in 2 axes. I don't need to do it on all 3. So I'm going to bring these out like this. Okay, now that looks kind of too big, almost like a giant clown collar or something. But it's the right first step. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to vertices. And now we will scale all of these closer together. Like so. Well, let's see. Now let's go back a step to the, not that far. Back to polys. And let's just scale these down a little bit like this. There we go. Then we'll go to the vertexes and scale all of that together. And then we'll move these up toward the top like so. Okay, now in the 3D view, you can kind of see what's going on. Now, if we want to do more of these, we can. In fact, let's try a division on the polygons. Oh, that doesn't look quite the same. Let's just look at this all the way around. No, I guess it's right. Okay. So let's say we want to divide this polygon in half and to add more vertexes. And I'm not completely sure that we can do that in the poly mode, but let's just see if we get a divide tool down here. We don't need soft selection anymore, or at least we don't need it right now. So we can just close that dialog and look for a divide. Might have to do a mesh for this one. A slice plane, let's try a slice plane. So if we put a slice plane in, we can move the plane up and down and decide where we want to slice it. And then we can slice. Okay. Now when we turn that off and we get out, we've got a new edge across there. So if we wanted, we could do some slice planes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we could just add a bunch more things. So we could add 3 or 4 more rings if we wanted to. Maybe we'll want to do that. So I'm going to just not work in this area right here for a while in case we want to come back and do something funky like that. All right, now a lot of lightsabers have some sort of grip on them, something that looks like would increase the friction with your hand and so forth. And I like that, but I kind of want to try something different. So I want to try and use polygons to, instead of having something stick out, make something stick in. So let's go all the way down like this, and then once again, go around in the circle. Oh, you saw that move, so Control Z to unmove it. And just patiently watch me select all of those. It moved again, Control Z. For my art stuff at home, I prefer to use a trackball. So I have a Logitech trackball, and you can take your thumb off of the ball while you click the mouse, and so it results in a little more precision than you get with a typical computer mouse. Okay, so I'm continuing to select polygons, and we're almost there. And I'm going to do a bevel. Oh, I just saw it move. So Control Z, Control Z. See how it moved back? Last face. Okay. So now I want to do the bevel again, but this time I'm not going to pull it out. I'm going to go in with it. So I'm going to click, drag it in just a little bit like so. And then when I let go of the mouse, I'm going to drag again to kind of make it narrower like this. And I was thinking that that might make it, give it a little more subtlety to the grip, that the grip is there, but it's not so overtaking the whole model, nature of the model even. Okay, yeah, that looks pretty good. So I'll turn off the bevel, and you can remember you can always sort of preview your model by hitting Shift Q and bringing up the render window. And that looks pretty neat. Let's do another angle. The bottom is still kind of boring, but let's look at it anyway. Zoom in a little bit, Shift Q. And you can see that these are embedded in instead of coming out like the top was. All right, so now we just got to decide, well, we got to decide a few more things. So what do we want to do with the bottom here? Now you see I left one extra face at the bottom because I knew I might want to do something different with the bottom piece of this. I think I'd like to bevel this, but I think I'd also like to chamfer that bottom edge. Remember how we did that? Okay, so we're going to do the edge. I'm going to click one, hit loop. So I got that whole edge, and I want to chamfer that a little bit. So let's go down to chamfer and bring up the numerical box. I like the 7. That's nice. I think it'd be nice to have a little bigger space covered by the curve. So let's just try increasing this. Well, I don't remember which number this is. Let's try this. Yeah. So you can see as every time I click, it's adding, making the curve a little wider. And as it gets bigger, the faces each get bigger too. So I think once we're up here a little bit, we'll move our edges faces up to 9. So now we click in here. Oh, it's thinking. So 9. That gives a nice kind of little curved edge to it. That's nice. Let's see. What should we do at the bottom? Oh, we got to accept this, that we want it. So we hit the check mark. There we go. I think we'll do some bevels here. So let's go back to polys. And let's select, oh, nope. I go to selection mode. I'm going to select those, and I'll just grow it from there to what I want to work on. Actually, let's shrink it down one, and let's just move this down, and that will pull the vertices out the way I kind of had in mind. So you kind of see it stretched these out kind of nicely. And then let's extrude these out just a little bit, like so. And then let's bevel this out a little bit. So we're going to drag it up, but then pull it in. And I think I want another little edge up there. So I'm going to bevel this, but I'm going to use it to do something different than a normal bevel. So I'm going to bevel. So you can see I can start with this face, but really I don't want to change the altitude. Like this is high, this is low, or whatever. I just want to stay right at the edge and drag in a little bit just to create a new internal edge from this outer edge. I could have done it in other ways, but this was it. This is a very easy way to do it. So now when I bevel again, I can bevel in like just a little bit and then drag it inward. Now I get a little kind of divot back there. And then I want to shrink the selection and I want to bevel this back out again, just a teeny bit, and drag inward like that. And I'll do a Shift Q just so we could see what it looks like. I'm in the wrong window. Right click in there to get that beige line, hit Shift Q. There's the bottom edge. So that's pretty cool. Now, at some point, we've got to ask ourselves, will this print? And we've just created a problem with printing because some portions of this edge, like this surface and this surface, need to be the same because this bottom surface has to be printed on. So let's look at both this polygon and this polygon, but from this other view. Because if this surface down here doesn't print properly, then it just won't print. And you can see that we've got the bottom edge of the internal and the bottom edge of the external area lined up perfectly on the bottom. So all of this will print, all of this will print, and as long as these slopes are angled acceptably and we print a proper size, this may just print just fine. If not, we might want to do some more design on it, but then save it as a separate object that we attach to the bottom of the Light Saber later, and just have a smooth circle surface all the way across to start from in the printing process. But since we're talking about this, let's discuss a couple other things. What do you think about this? Is the printer going to be able to come print, and then make this angle work up here? Maybe, but maybe not. Since this is the bottom and this is the top, we really should contemplate how to model this a little differently to make it easier for printing. So one thing we can do, let's look at the side view within this window. One thing we can do is to just make this angle less steep. Okay, so let's do that, and we'll do it with vertexes. We'll just select vertexes. But remember to check your back facing. And so ignore back facing is not checked. So we did just select all the vertices all the way across. We'll just drag these down a little bit. So now this is less, well, actually it depends on how you think of it, but now it's more steep or less steep, whatever you want to say. But now the printer will be better able to print this all the way up. But then it's going to have an issue with this angle. So let's do this set of vertices, and what we'll do here is we'll just scale them, but with just the sideways tool, like so. We'll scale them kind of out a ways, and now we got a softer gap in here that should be okay. Now when we come up into the top angle up here, these are more subtle angles that we're growing, and so these probably are going to be quite okay. And then when we're printing in here, we also have soft angles inside. Let's Shift Q just to get another gander at that. You see there's an angle coming up from the bottom up here, but it's a nice, I guess it's a nearly vertical angle. And so that should make it easier to do the printing. Okay. Since making your chess set pieces, you have some ideas about what I'm talking about how to make things print or how to maybe even force them not to print. Ooh, something happened in here. What is this? Oh, we didn't ignore back facing and we dragged all these points down. At some point, I don't know. Let's see. Maybe it's something we can keep, or maybe we need to go back and with some undo in order to get that to straighten out a little bit. Let's do a Shift Q and see what it looks like. Oh, this happened when we were doing the bottom. All right, so this is a great example of a mistake. So I'm going to just keep undoing until that goes away. Now that's back to normal. Now we want to redo the work that we did on the bottom. I guess we'll do that in the bottom window though, like we did before. And this time we just have to remember to turn off turn on, ignore back facing. Okay, go back to polygons. Okay, we got the chamfer figured out. Let's see, we want to grow this, I think. No, actually we can do this with scale. We'll scale this up. And then we can move this down to get that first initial interior. Oh no, we want it out, don't we? We'll bring it out a little bit like so. We'll scale it in just a little bit smaller. Okay, and then we were beveling. Look at this. Why is this even selected? All right, let's try this again. Control Z. We're in the selection mode. And look, we got these selected. We should be only selecting things from the bottom, and the side got selected. Oh, now ignore back facing is turned off. Oh, we got to turn it off in different modes. That's right. So vertices, polygon, each mode may or may not have back facing turned on and off. Well, no, that looks right to me. All right. So let's try it again. Okay, now we're not getting those the side artifacts gathered. So, okay, we'll do it again. Okay, I want to scale this up or just make it wider. Then I want to move it out, which creates the bevel edge on the outer piece over here. And then I want to bevel again. So I'm going to come out, but remember this is where I just wanted to just do it at the same level and then drag it in a little bit to create that new edge. Okay, and then I'm going to bevel in one, maybe a little deeper, and then drag that in. Then I'm going to shrink my selection a little bit, one level, and I'm going to bevel this back up to the other height level. Now, if I had my windows arranged just right, I could be watching this to make sure that it's lined up. So I'm going to Control Z. I'll just do it. Okay, Control Z, and let's just get this window set up to view this piece. So I want a direct side view like this. And now we'll be able to see what's happening here as we edit in here. So right click in here, bevel. That's correct right there. As you can see up in the top window. And I'll drag that in a little bit like that. And now this surface here and this surface here are at the same altitude. They're both going to be at the bottom when we print, and we'll see if we can make that work for printing. Okay, so we're kind of back to where we were at. Now, I could have edited that mistake out in the video, but I wanted to, when I have these mistakes, I definitely want you to see that they're mistakes so that you can see how to handle making changes to fix the mistakes. Okay, so we're doing pretty good. Notably, we don't have anything that looks like a button yet. And we really need to maybe have something on the side that looks like a button. So I kind of picture us putting a button in here, but I kind of like these clean edges, both at the top and at the bottom. So I think first what I want to do is select all these polygons, but you see how they didn't all select, right? And that's because we've got back facing, ignore back facing turned on. So I'm going to click that, try it again, and now I've got them all the way around. And remember how to split. In this polyform, we can edit that geometry with a split or slice. Sorry, slice plane. So we'll slice the plane. We got to move the plane up like this. So I'm moving the slicing plane up to where I want it. I'm going to put it right there. I'm going to hit slice. Then I'm going to move it down. I'm going to hit slice again. Then I'm going to move it down and hit slice again. And then I can turn off the slice. So now I've got more vertices to work out with here. All right, so now I'm going to go to the side view up here to move some of these vertexes around, because this is in perspective view and this is in orthographic view. And we'll talk about that in just a second. So I'm going to go to vertexes, and I'm going to just select these vertexes and move them down, because I want to have a nice little clean edge right here before we have a button. And then these are going to make my nice clean edge up here. And then these are going to be the space where I make the button. So I'm going to drag them to the middle and then scale them out somewhat so that I've got room to do something interesting. So I'll do something like that. That looks pretty good. And now to decide how big a button is, let's see. Let's maybe try doing a polygon select and now turn on ignore back facing again. We'll go to polygons. I don't want all those. I'll just click one over here just at random to clear my selection. And I'm just going to select those three. And I'm going to change windows again. I really kind of want to be able to see what's going on with this in 3D. So I'll go around like this. And the Light Sabers, at least in the original Star Wars, have a very industrial appearance to them. And I don't think I want quite that severe of an appearance, but so we're going to make this slightly less square than we might anticipate from a movie lightsaber. So a movie lightsaber would pull this out as a square and then just leave it as a square. I want to bring this out a little bit like so, and then we'll just actually, I guess I'm going to want to make that top kind of flat. But I'm going to let go, and then I'm going to just bring it in a little bit like this. So it's got a slight pyramidal shape to it, but it's still going to be a little funky because those faces are not flat. See how there's a little curve still there. Okay, so I'm going to go to a side view like this, and I'm going to go to vertex, and I'm going to select all these vertices, and I'd really like to make them flat. Oh, got to turn off the ignore back facing. Let's do that again. Okay, that looks pretty good. But you can see that my selection for flatness is off the angle. So how are we going to make these all just one plane? So there should be a function for making coplanar. Let's see. Here we go. Make planar. So let's zoom in and watch what happens to these points. Make planar. It should just average them out and make a nice plane for us. So now you can see it's a perfect flat surface. Okay, so we'll go back up to where the bevel is. Do the polygon and bevel. And I'm going to just go up a teeny bit and come in with this. And then I'm going to go in. Actually, I'm just going to be level and just come in a little bit like so. Then I'm going to go in a teeny bit. And kind of have a little space for a depression of the button. All right, let's get a 3D prototype view of this. So Shift Q, and that looks pretty cool. Now, I bet some of you are wondering, how is that going to print right there? And that's going to be rough. So this edge is really steep again from a 3D printing standpoint. So I want to shrink that down and have a much shallower angle on this. And so I'm going to do an edge select, and we're going to select this edge. And this time we're going to use the ring tool, and watch what happens. The ring goes, it just selects all those edges all the way around. And now we're going to scale these down, and that helped a little bit. And now we're going to move all of them down to stretch that bottom angle out quite a bit. And so now we've got a different kind of surface down there that might be acceptable for printing. All right, that's nice. Oh, when we did our undos, we lost the work we did up here. Okay, so let's go back to the top window, because we've got that nice orthographic view already there in the window. Okay, and let's do our edge. We'll click that, and we'll do a loop all the way around, and we'll just move that one down like we did before. And we'll click in here and make a loop, and we'll scale this, but it's hard to see, and we can't get the right tool. So I'm going to angle this a little bit, right click for scale, because we're going to stretch that circle out, and I grabbed the wrong tool there. Let's try this one. Nope, wrong tool. Okay, where are we looking at here? There we go. Here's the right tool. So we'll stretch it out about like that. We'll go back to our side view. That looks pretty good. And then I think we had one other edge somewhere no, I guess we're okay. We got the two done that we needed. That one looks pretty all right. Double check these, and that looks not too bad. It looks, well, I don't really know how tall that is. I guess it looks a little short to me. So I'm going to stretch, I'm going to stretch the bottom of this down, and let's turn on soft select, and then we'll select the bottom half of these. It doesn't really matter what we turn on soft select. It doesn't matter how we grab these exactly, because we're just going to be moving them. So we'll just move, just drag these down, except are we dragging all our, now remember, we got our grips in here somehow. Oh yeah, that's working just fine. So we're grabbing our grips. The angles aren't changing on that part. And let's see. Yeah, that looks a little more proportional to a lightsaber. Okay, so that looks really good. One more thing, I want to just scale these polygons right here, and I'm gonna leave soft select selected, and I'm going to scale those in just a little bit to give it a little more unique look. So scale that in, and then let's do a Shift Q and see what we think. Yeah, that's a little different look for a lightsaber, just having that scaled in. And it's got really soft angles to it, so it should print okay, or it might print okay. So I think I'm ready for this to be printed. And so this looks real good. So first of all, I need to save this. So File, Save As. This is going to save in the Scenes folder, so that's fine. You just need to know where you're saving it. And I'm just going to put, I'll put Light Saber 01 in case I want to iterate the design later. So I put Light Saber 01, and it's just in the scenes folder. Hit save. Okay, so now I want to save this for 3D printing. So I need to export this. So I'm going to go Max, Export, and I want the export non-native. So I go there. It's going to put it in the export folder in Max. You could save that anywhere you want. You're going to need to save it probably in a documents folder or something. And I put Light Saber STL because I need it to be an STL file for our printer. STL, save. It's not selected, but it's all, I need the whole thing. So I'll just uncheck that box, hit OK. And now it's saved as an STL file. And now that STL file can be used to put into a MakerBot or a 3D modeling or printing program someplace to make that work. There you go. Completed Light Saber. Now we'll see how it prints.